Welcome, guys, to the next episode of the Tech on Toast podcast. And this week we're with Paul West, CEO of Fuse and Ignite. Paul, how are you?
Hi, Chris. Thanks for having me. First of all, I'm very good. It's a sunny day for a change.
Yes. Well, I live in the West, right? So literally we're underwater here right now. So I swam the kids to school this morning. So it was really interesting. So, and Paul, I met you. I think I've met you before, but the first time I properly met you was at a Made for Marketing event with Vic Searle in Manchester. And I do most of my meetings in the pub, which is where we ended up chatting afterwards. But you were talking that day about Ignite and obviously Fuse. And some really interesting stuff looking into the future. But tell us a little bit about how you got to this point. And Ignite's been going for a few years, right?
Yeah. So I founded both Ignite and Fuse, and I run both companies at the moment, along with my business partner Samuel. We started Ignite 20 years ago, so we're old.
I didn't say that, you said it.
Yeah, I completely admit it. But yeah, 20 years ago we started Ignite, and we were doing digital marketing for restaurants at the time when we had to convince people to do a website because they didn't even necessarily believe that they needed a website for their business. So this was right at the beginning of the kind of internet era, and we then built the business up. We built the business completely organically. We've always done what we wanted to do, what we thought was the best things to do, considering the technology advancements that were being made, and the opportunities that gave to hospitality. I mean, we love food and drink, which is why we focused on hospitality, right, and restaurants. And who doesn't love food and drink and travel as well? So we built Ignite over a number of years, and then things like social media were invented. Google launched, AdWords in this country as well prior to the social media launches. So we just grabbed hold of all of this technology, and it was fantastic. And we're running around telling people that social media is important for their business. And again, they were all cynical, So Ignite has always sort of grown up with technology, right? Like it's been the core of what we do. And what we do is we leverage that technology for the marketing benefit of our clients. And we've moved more and more upstream as well as we built the business. So we work a lot with kind of brand strategy and business strategy and so on, and then how that feeds all the way through down to communications. And we have a strong kind of creative department as well to make sure all that's interesting and exciting instead of just talking about technology, right? Which, we need a better story than just talking about technology. So
that's why
that's kind of where Ignite. Yeah, exactly. This is a technology podcast, right? So and then Fuse we developed as a software platform, kind of off the back of all of our experience at Ignite, right? So all of our understanding of digital user journeys, the optimization of revenues, conversion maximization, using digital channels to drive revenue, and so on. And we basically took all of that knowledge and all of those websites we've built and all those e-commerce platforms we've built, and we built it as a product. So we developed Fuse, and it's a separate company to Ignite. So we have the two companies, and we developed Fuse that sort of runs alongside Ignite and basically benefits from Ignite's kind of client base, route to market, and so on. So we've had kind of quite rapid growth of Fuse without requiring any funding or anything like that, and we've managed to work with some of the very best clients, best brands in hospitality.
You can name drop, Paul. Go on. Who? Because I first met you.
We got Hawksmoor, Gaucho, Drake and Morgan, D&D, Foe, Marigami Udon. It's a fantastic list of clients, right? Park Chinoise, like really, really good brands, and and we've built the product out alongside those fantastic brands and taken their input, right? So we've let those businesses input into how we're crafting the Fuse product. So yeah, it's a really exciting place we've kind of got to, and when we're now talking to clients, new clients for Ignite, we say, well, we have Fuse, and Fuse can become quite a big revenue driver for your business, right?
No, I find it amazing, and I think what I really love about product in tech sometimes is that when it's fed by the customer. So and the unique thing about you guys is that you actually have Ignite sitting next to Fuse, separate companies, but sitting nearby, and your customers are telling you we want this, or you're at the forefront marketing for them, understanding their needs, and they're able to kind of almost form a product which is you know, a lot of people do customer research, right, if they're building a new thing, but you've actually got it live feeding into you constantly, which is really interesting, which is, I suppose, how you understood through the pandemic what they needed quite quickly. And what do they actually want then? So what are customers asking you for, and how are you servicing that through Fuse?
So our initial response, because during the pandemic, we were being asked by a lot of our clients to incorporate different technology platforms into their websites or into their digital ecosystems and infrastructure. And what transpired is that it was incredibly fragmented. So you had one supplier providing gift cards, you had another supplier doing their pay at table, you had another supplier doing their ticketing. And so this created a real problem, because it was a problem for the customer, because there was a crap customer experience, right? The customer had to go in and out of different platforms. The gift cards didn't work with the ticketing platform, and so on, right? So it was a nightmare for the customer, and it was crap for the operator, because the operator had all these different suppliers. They didn't almost know like who they should talk to about what issue or what situation, and so it became, you know, problematic. And so our response to that was, well, let's build a system where it's one ecosystem, right? And we fused it together, hence the name.
Very good.
Fused together all the, like what we did there, right? Fused together all the different e-commerce functionality that a restaurant requires, and to enhance its revenue and to provide a better customer service. And we fused them into a single product. And so our product is a multi-product product. You know, we have gifting, we have ticketing and events, we have pay and order at table, we have click and collect and delivery. So it's and a store, right? You know, where you can sell products of any type, wine boxes and so on. So what this does is it allows brands to expand their brands into the home, right? So, you know, if you're a restaurant with a fantastic sommelier, why aren't you leveraging that sommelier's value in terms of putting together curated wine boxes and selling those wine boxes, right? Because your customers like your wine. That's one of the reasons they come to your restaurant, right? So, you know, especially with, like, you know, bigger brands, whether it's Draker Morgan or D&D and people like that, where they have very, very skilled sommeliers and very trusted sommeliers. That's, for example, one sort of way you can leverage the value of a restaurant business in other ways, right? Similarly, like, say, for example, with Draker Morgan, they run these fantastic events with DJs like Fat Tony and drag events and all sorts of cool stuff. And you know, we built this platform that allows them to sell these ticketed events incredibly efficiently, right? And with really cool functionality like waitlist functionality and so on, to ensure things are always sold out, even if they have to refund people because people, you know, can't make the event that they bought tickets for and so on. So really good sort of customer orientated functionality. And again, I think the sort of, you know, where we have always come from is we come from marketing and agency and customer, right? So that's what's in our DNA. Our blood is made of kind of narrative and storytelling and customer journey, right? And so we've applied all of that into Fuse. We've taken all of that and put it into Fuse. So it's really understanding, like, what do customers want? How are customers behaving? Because that's what we've done for 20 years, is understand the customer journey.
I think it's amazing. And I think I was liking a customer journey the other day. I was talking to someone about good CVs and bad CVs when you recruit, right? And when you look at a CV and someone's jumping in and out of jobs quite a lot through that CV, you're a bit wary, thinking, oh, why aren't you sticking around a bit? But then you see these CVs that have long periods of time in each role and they're developing and going through. And I liken that to a customer journey in the fact that you don't want to have to, I think you talked about it before, leaving one place to go to another, or jumping out of here to go to another, and actually having a start and an end. And I think it's brilliant. And I'm skipping off my question here because I want to talk about ticketing quickly, because you mentioned Draker Morgan. And I think it's so important that brands understand that there's other revenue streams to be had out of their daily, what they do normally, right? So if you sit there today and you have a restaurant that doesn't do events, that has never done events, and don't have any product that you think could fit an event, the ability is there to do it, right? The chance is there to do it if you're clever enough to match that through the customer journey and build. So the DJ sets, I'm guessing that people that attend those things are also spoken to about other products that Draker Morgan do.
Absolutely, right. And that's what I was sort of talking about, is the sort of cross-pollination of a restaurant brand or a hospitality brand, right? The ability to create new products and services within the umbrella of the brand, and to to extend those brands into lifestyles or at home or whatever it may be. And when we worked with Hawksmoor during the pandemic for their meal kits, it was a remarkably successful business. And they've actually paused it now because they're so busy with their restaurants, but they did fantastically well selling Hawksmoor at home meal kits during the pandemic, and it was just a brilliant way of sort of taking what Hawksmoor do and bringing it into the home, and they made a lot of money. It was really good. But the Fuse platform enabled that to happen, right? Enabled the back of house logistics to work correctly, the customer ordering process in terms of the dates at which they were going to ship out and so on, like the order dates and so on. Like all of that functionality had to be built, and we built it quickly because the pandemic was the pandemic and it was a crazy time, right? But that's just a kind of an example, I guess, of how a fantastic restaurant brand like Hawksmoor or Gaucho or any of the other guys, they can extend their brands in other ways and leverage the value of those brands that they built up over a long period of time. Like they're valuable brands in their own right, and they don't just need to be bricks and mortar stores.
And that's really interesting. And one of the reasons they are valuable, and one of the things that sets them apart, or actually all of your customers sets them apart from some of the people looking through the window wishing they were in that brand, is the storytelling, right? And I think that you can have a great product, you can be the best chef in the world, but if you're just in your kitchen and no one knows about that and no one's really trying your product, no one will ever know. So brand and storytelling is what Ignite has done fantastically for its customers over the years. But you've managed to fuse that, see what I did as well, fuse that into your new product, and how that leads to consistent delivery, right? And that then leads to predictability from customers. How do you ensure that implementing your tech doesn't dilute the storytelling? Because it's quite obvious when you look at Fuse and compare them to some of your competitors that there's a real obvious storytelling part of what you do. How do you build that without diluting it?
So again, because we come from a sort of brand marketing perspective, like point of view, we decided fundamentally when we developed Fuse that the client's brand needs to feel like a seamless experience from their main website or customer experience journey through their e-commerce journey, right? And it's very, very important that to the customer is a seamless experience. And so we actually say with Fuse that we're for businesses that care about their brands, right? It's like if you actually give a shit about your brand, letting your customers go off to a third-party templated, standardized platform, it's not what you want to do, right? Because you lose the narrative, right?
Yep.
You lose the beauty of the journey. And so what we've done is gone, well, no, we're going to make an effort to enable our system to allow that brand to come to life on our platform as well. And that makes just the visual side of it makes a massive difference. If you look at any of the Fuse customers, you go into Draco Morgan's website and go to store, it doesn't feel like you're going to Fuse, but you are, right? But you go to that experience and it feels 100% like you are still absolutely within the Draco Morgan experience, right? And so that's really fundamental. But also it's in terms of like the products that you're selling, whether it's steak boxes or wine crates or Fat Tony DJ nights, right? So that tells you quite a bit about the brand. It enhances the narrative of the brand. So Draco Morgan putting on a DJ like Fat Tony or a drag night is telling you something, right? It's telling you something about the brand. And it helps to reinforce the brand's values and messages and attributes for Draco Morgan as a whole, because it's about having fun and it's about the entertainment and it's about letting your hair down and, they're busy city bars in the Square Mile and so on, and central London and up in Manchester and places as well. But it's right for people who are working hard to have a good time, and putting on events like that actually emphasizes and underlines that brand positioning.
And I call it peeling the onion, right? It's like peeling the onion on a brand, because you can have a brand which has like a shop window that looks pretty, looks great, but when you kind of get underneath it, it's probably not what you thought it was. But I love the fact that these guys are innovating through events, innovating through DJs, innovating through wine dinners, whatever it might be, and they're trying new things. And I think great tech solves problems, right? It comes along and it sees something and it starts to fix it for you. And that's what most operators should be looking at, I think. And for you guys, it's not just about enhancing the revenue you've already got in the basket, right? It's not just about increasing basket spend. And as we mentioned before, the ticketing, it's about potentially putting in new revenue streams.
Absolutely, right. I mean, that's very much what Fuse is about now. I think, during the pandemic, it was about, you had to dodge the bullets, right? You had to survive, and it was about survival and about doing what you could do as a hospitality business in the limitations and restrictions that were in place, right? So now it's all about driving revenue, right? And driving revenue and growing brands and providing customers a sort of frictionless experience, right? And of course, the other benefit that a platform like Fuse has is the data, right? Like all the data that we're collecting. So from a marketer's point of view, and I know you're a marketer and I'm a marketer, and it's like having that data. And I know you spoke to Vic Searle the other day, like it's fantastic.
He followed me around.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and and having that data is incredibly rich because it's absolute purchase data, right? So if a customer, just know that they've been in your restaurant, exactly what they bought, how much they spent, if they also buy gift cards, if they come to your ticketed events, all of these things about them, which enables you to build a far better picture of your customers and identify the true value of your customers, and then you can reward those people and entice those people more effectively, right? So that's where it's kind of going to. So it's it started off with a necessity during the pandemic, and it's grown from there into a fantastic revenue driver, a marketing tool, a data collection functionality.
And that is interesting, right? Because my background before I got into this world was operations, and I was talking to you the other day about who's the customer, and who's the customer, and it's very much marketing people, right? Because this is really, I think you called it rich data, that where you can, and because it's all in one pot. This is the big difference, I think, with potentially with Fuse compared to when you have, I suppose, 7 or 8 different SaaS solutions off the shelf that you're doing different things with. That actually it's all in one place, and you have this kind of really nice collection of people, as you say, birthdays, wedding anniversaries, ticketed events, wine dinners, whatever they came to, just because they checked in and had a drink one night, and you've got this information. It becomes so powerful, doesn't it? And I think when you were talking about at the start, it was interesting about how you had to convince people they needed a website. Are you in the same journey now with convincing people that a valuable CRM is going to be the absolute future to their business?
Not so much. It's not so hard these days, because I think there's clever marketers in the restaurant industry know this, right? The thing that most marketers tend to struggle with is how to do it.
Yeah.
They kind of know that they should be doing it and they need to be doing it, but it's because of that sort of historic fragmented ecosystem, it's bloody difficult, right? When you have your bookings data in one place and you've got your pay at table data somewhere else and your Wi-Fi login data somewhere else, and trying to make sense of that is very, very difficult. It's a challenge, and that's why having something like Fuse, where you've got all of that payment data in one place, to your point, is actually makes it really easier, much easier, and I think so. When I tell people that narrative, basically they get it, right? Like marketers get it. I think the challenge really is getting it all implemented operationally, right? Because it's all very well for the marketing department, and finance usually gets it. Finance goes, yeah, I can see this is going to make us some more money. It's going to save us some money here and there as well. But operationally, sometimes that's a challenge, right? Because you've got new product streams. You've got to manage busy event nights, for example. You sold 200 tickets to an event, and you've got to
now you've got to do it.
You make it work operationally, right? Or you got gifting, and you want to get micro gift or gift cards or whatever it might be. And so all these things present operational challenges. And so I think it's convincing the core of the operation of the business of the value and how it needs to be implemented, right, is one of the challenges that we are definitely facing, right, and that's something which we're kind of as Fuse as a company trying to like help our clients go through that process, go through that journey, because the guys at the top often get it. Like when I speak to CEOs or managing directors or COOs or marketing directors and CMOs and all those guys and finance directors and CFOs, they all get it, right? It's getting things implemented in store on the ground by the guys who are on the front line. That's more of a challenge.
And it's one of the things I've loved most about getting involved with tech over the last few years, understanding roadmaps, and we used to call them budgets in operations, right? That was our roadmap. The budget was our roadmap. It was like we'd set a budget for a store and that's what we had to hit. How we did that actually wasn't written down anywhere. That was just in the area manager's head or the ops director's head. So I actually think one of the solutions to the problem you're talking about is road mapping out technology alongside operations, actually looking at the customer journey and marketing, because it ties it all together, and really having a solid roadmap for the next 12, 24 months. And that sounds crazy, right, for a hospitality business, particularly what they've been through for pandemic and all the recent things that are getting in their way and all the headwinds. But having a map that can actually say, look, we're going to do this, we're going to implement gifting, ticketing, this is what it's going to look like, operations buy-in, marketing buy-in, then it becomes really powerful, because actually you're not just going on along a budget, you're actually building a new business potential or layering on new business as you go. And then you have to have the technology to do that, which you guys provide, which I find it interesting. And I think operators are changing as well. I think hopefully that's good news to you. That I think operators, actually the guys on the ground, are actually saying, I am becoming more tech, because they're growing up with tech as well, right? This generation is different. So they're probably understanding more that what they need to do to bring their friends and colleagues to their business. I don't know if you think the same, but that's the way I look at, I suppose, what we should be doing going forward.
Yeah, so that's absolutely valid point, because so for example, earlier this week we did a workshop with all the GMs at Drake and Morgan. So they from all the different sites came together. We did a workshop, and we basically took the time to kind of explain the substance of Fuse and the benefits to the business and to them and their own KPIs and targets that they have to achieve, and how it's going to benefit them. But also what we really wanted to do was listen, right? So because they've been implementing sort of order and pay technology in the bars, and we wanted to hear what their experiences were of that, what frustrations they had, what how they could see what benefits they could see, what ideas they had. And it was fantastic, right? So we started that. We had this amazing dialogue, and we got this like incredible vibe going, where they were like coming up with these ideas of things that we could add to the technology, to the functionality of the technology, that would like tick like massive ball aches off of their list, right? Massive pains in the asses off of their list. And they were
Holy Grail, my friend, get rid of the ball aches for ops. We will be your best friend forever.
Exactly, right. And they were like, wow, if it did this, I would love it. That would be amazing. And we're like, okay, cool. We can build that actually. That's completely reasonable, right? Feasible. Because one thing we noticed, and again with Fuse, we've tried to ensure that it's very versatile, right? Like we don't think that every hospitality business operates the same way, funnily enough, right? So we know that the way that one brand, these are all very, very good companies, very good businesses, that we work with. And we know that the way one company does it is going to be different to how another company does things, right? So we have to build flexibility and versatility into our product. Because if you're expecting everybody to fall into line with your product, that's crap product design, in my view. So we have to listen to what clients want, build flexibility into the substance of the product and versatility and substance of the product, so that we can respond to the different nuances of people's operations, our company's operations. And that's really sort of fundamental again to our DNA, to our philosophy as a business. Is like, we don't expect you to fall into line with us. We will adapt things to make it work for you. That's what we try and do.
And that's what makes customers sticky, right? That's a horrible word, sticky, I know. But that's why people hang around with you. That's where loyalty breeds. And that's, if you look at some of the best people who run loyalty programs, that's why you hang around with the loyalty program, because actually you feel like they're tailored to you. They're not for a group of, I don't sit in the, I'm going to say, the 20 to 40-year-olds. I don't sit in that group. I'm actually, this is for Chris. This is for because my birthday. This is for because I visited on a Tuesday, whatever it might be. But it's that tailored or personalization of it, which, and especially in a product design, I mean, that's insane, right? If you can build a product, I know you can't react to everything, but if you can build a product based wholly around feedback from the people that use it, and most product designers going, yeah, that's what we do. But really looking internally and reacting to it, it's absolutely powerful. I think it will change the game.
Yeah, totally. And I think we'll find that, for example, with Drake and Morgan, like some of the ideas were brilliant, and we're going to add those to the product, and it's going to make their lives better as operators, right? And easier, solve their problems. That's what tech's got to do. It's got to solve the problems. It's also got to, provide revenue streams and so on. But it's
dirty word, money. Yes.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I was going to ask you, like, the Ignite is 20 years old. Was it this year? Was it 20 years old this year? Is that the anniversary?
Yeah? Well, 2022. Yeah, 2022 was our 20th anniversary. We celebrated all year. And that,
I can't believe you started a business when you were 15. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know, right? That's still school.
And that's a lot of time, right, to be working with marketing people and brands and all that, and I suppose what's changed. I mean, it could be a long conversation, but what do you think has changed really in the industry, or are our problems just evergreen? Are we just still dealing with the same stuff? What do you think?
The things that have changed are vast. Obviously, the biggest is the adoption of the internet, right? And how the internet expand. Like I said, 20 years ago, a lot of restaurants didn't have a website, and doing SEO was great because you could just write like you could write London restaurant in the title tag, and you were number one on Google for London restaurant.
Oh, the dream!
It was so easy. It was fantastic. No one knew how to do it, and so we actually had all of our clients were like top 10 restaurants in Google. It was brilliant.
I love that.
And so and obviously, and that was kind of the world of kind of web one, where basically websites were brochures, and that was it. And then web 2 kind of came along, web 2.0, and that was the kind of user generated content era, so things like Facebook were invented, and then of course things like Instagram off the back of that, and so on. Everyone knows the process. And that's all about. And now we're kind of into web 3, which is one of the things I talked about at Vic's Made for Marketing event, and where's that going to go? And you've got like, AI, and you've got AR and VR and all of these amazing technologies, which are still very low in the adoption curve, right? Like they AR isn't commonplace currently, we're not all walking around with little things being beamed into our eyeballs through our glasses and so on, right?
Yeah.
But it will happen, right? Like there's almost no doubt that as the technology gets smaller and smaller and smaller, it becomes easier and easier for wearable technology. That's all just gonna completely sort of develop. So, as customers, as consumers start to adopt the technology, and as it continues to develop, so will restaurants and hospitality, and there's enormous potential with that. There's some fantastic kind of stuff that people are playing around with already that has big implications on hospitality.
Have you got an example? It'd be great to get an example, because I watched you speak and my mind was blown, and I just keep going back to the fact that there was no SEO, which was great. But we're kind of at that stage with the AI, AR, because it's really kind of a blank canvas. And I remember we were talking about it, I think, at the event or afterwards, and you were saying about people might roll their eyes now or kind of look shocked when I'm talking about this stuff, but that's what they did when websites came along, and that's what they did before social media. So technology will keep advancing. It's the early adopters often that win. Is that fair to say, or kind of get a head start, I suppose?
Yeah, well, being aware of the technology, I think, is I mean, I remember having conversations with people when Facebook was first launched, right, in the UK, because it was in the US first and it came here. And we were using it, right? We actually were working quite closely with Facebook to work with social media, and as they were launching their ad platform, we were sort of pioneering it for them, playing around with it for them in the restaurant sector. And I remember talking to people going, "This will never work." Right? Like social media, why? Literally people telling me that social media will never catch on. you know, you look back on that now. I remember having conversations with people about websites and them saying things like, you know, there's no point having a website. I'm a restaurant. People just walk into my restaurant. I don't need a website, right? So you know, we've always had those conversations, you know. So to have a conversation with somebody now and they say we don't need to worry about VR, you know, it's like you will, at some point you will. So like already, like some of the big brands like McDonald's and Wendy's in the United States are doing some pretty interesting things, right? They're building restaurants in gaming environments so people can go into a you know, VR experience when they're doing other things on you know, on the VR environments that they're in, and they can go into a restaurant, they can order food and pay for it, and then it arrives at their house. You know, so they, they don't even have to come out of the gaming environment to go and order. They only have to stop to go and open the front door.
You've just described my 15-year-old's life. That's basically what he does now. It's just me. I'm the AI. I just deliver it.
You're the delivery guy, right?
Yeah.
You know, that's not real simple. But you know, there's also technology being developed where, you know, for front of house teams to have AR visibility of their guests, right? And they can get the information about guests as they're coming in the door, and they can know if someone's an important guest or you know, a very loyal customer and so on, and they can react accordingly, right? And that information can come at them really, really quick. And that sort of technology is being developed. Menu technology is fantastic, right? Because we all care about where our food comes from, what's in it. You know, there's you know, gluten allergies and all sorts of situations, and nut allergies and all sorts of situations where menu information, usually the little description and the little code isn't sufficient, right? And you want to know more about it. So one very potential use case is having AR information. You can see where the steak's from. You know, you can see the farm where it's from. You can see all of the breakdown of ingredients precisely, right? So that you can understand if there's something in there that you can't eat, so as to avoid any allergic reactions. So it's things like that which are just obviously going to be valuable, right? And as AR technology is more and more adopted, those things will just become more and more commonplace. Timestamp that.
Yeah, I've got to get that. That one's going out. Yeah, but that's amazing. And I think it's really, the reason I talk to founders, CEOs of these products is because we use the word visionary, but you're always looking down the road, right? You're always looking at what's coming next because you have the opportunity to, because you're being asked to probably by your customers. And I think it's really exciting to be able to put this in people's ears when they're mowing the lawn, walking the dog, whatever they're doing, and just irk that bit of interest, you know, an operator to say, do you know what? Maybe I should just scratch the surface, then have a little look and see if that, you know, is that coming? Could it help me? Not now, but in a year's time, could that help me? Or could I build something towards that? That's where I find this information really interesting, because it enables people to think differently, which is, I think, what we should all encourage is in a world like ours where everything is at the touch of a button now.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, for example, we're working with a restaurant group over in California, and, you know, they literally have restaurants in Silicon Valley. So that's their environment, right?
Yeah.
And, you know, we're looking at like NFT loyalty programs with those guys, because their audience is completely 100%
there
with that tech, right?
Yeah.
So they don't have to go through any education process with their audience base. And so there are people out there, are businesses out there, marketers out there that are looking at this tech and going, yeah, how can I use this, right? And it is those guys that are going to be one step ahead in when they do become more and more commonplace, right? Like if you're messing around with NFT technology for loyalty now, in 5 years' time, you're going to really understand. You're going to really know about it. Right?
Even I am understanding NFT. You know, I've taken time to read up on it. I'm starting to understand. We've got some little badges from other company which we use, which are NFTs, which are very cool. So yeah. So we're learning as we go. But brilliant. Now, look, Paul, Fuse is fantastic. Hopefully, people listening to this are going to understand that having their data all in one place, as well as all the different levers they can pull to enable themselves to make some more cash, which is prevalent right now. How do they get hold of you? Where do they find you?
Well, so we have a couple of websites. So first of all, check out fuse-hospitality.com. That's our Fuse website. And then there's ignitecreates.com is our Ignite website. So depending on kind of what you're interested in. You can reach me at paul@ignitecreates.com. And you find me on LinkedIn as, I think, Paul West, or Paul Westy, as I'm sometimes going under. So yeah, please reach out, connect with me, and
it's always a brave man who puts his email on a podcast, So
go for it. I'm always happy to have conversations with people. I love talking about this stuff. I can talk about it all day, as you can tell.
Yeah.
And so there's loads of great stuff going on. And I think people that are interested in this subject, that are Tech on Toast listeners, that obviously have an interest in technology and marketing and products and so on. I'm always happy to have conversations with people like that. So,
well, I'm going to get everyone together. Actually, everyone who comes on the podcast, I'm going to invite in all those guys together in the Shard. Apparently, I'm going all at market. Awesome. Yeah, look, even Paul rolled his eyes then. But yeah, I'm going to the Shard. I'm going to get a load of the founders together who've been on the podcast, and we're going to have a bit of a networking do and hang out a bit, and maybe ask some people to come along and kind of meet you guys as well. I think we should encourage more and more of it, especially talking about the future. It'd be lovely, wouldn't it, just to talk about what's coming rather than what happened for once, because what happened wasn't great. So let's talk about what's going to happen. I think it's much more exciting.
I agree. There's so much positivity in what's happening with digitization of restaurants, and there's so much scope and potential, and there's lots of innovation going on, and I think that, certainly here in the UK, we're kind of global leaders in technology for hospitality, and there's some fantastic ideas going on. There's some great people doing some great work. So yeah, it's a really exciting space.
There we go. Well, that was Paul West, everybody, CEO and founder of both Fuse and Ignite. And you can check him out on the websites that Paul just mentioned, or you can stalk him on LinkedIn and find him there, or I see him regularly. So thanks very much, Paul. Appreciate you taking the time out of a busy day. Say bye-bye.
Absolutely pleasure. Thank you, Chris. It's been fantastic talking to you. Thank you.